And ladies and gentlemen, we are live here on the CarrGuy Sixfan Show. My name is Jason, and over here to my wherever he is Grant. Introduce yourself, Grant.
Yeah, Grant Tommy, straight six fan or six fan of this operation. If you forget, you can just look at my shirt and you know who I am. So
And all of you guys are going to know who is in the bottom square right down here below. Over here, I guess, is Robbie Purser from United by Trucks. Robbie, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So this is a trial situation for us. This is our first guest on season 3 of the CarrGuy Sixfan Show, and so we are experimenting a little bit with how it's going to work, making sure that everybody's connections are there, and we're going to have all kinds of time for everybody to ask questions down in the comment section. So Grant, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what we're doing on this show, and we'll get right into it.
yeah, so if you are new to the Car Guy Six Fan Show, of course, the objective here is to talk a little bit of cars, but also help you guys grow your channels. We know we are all aspiring to be about the size of Robbie someday. To turn so we're bringing on guests in season 3 here to help kind of like let's dig into see how other people did. You've heard Jason and I's side of the story long enough here, and of course we can only go so far with tips and tricks and pointers. So we kind of want to bring in some outside perspective here in season 3. And so yeah, Robbie, since I haven't got to personally say it, thanks for coming on the show as well.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So what we're going to do first of all is we are going to give Robbie just a few minutes to kind of introduce himself for those who don't know who he is, and tell us a little bit about your channel. And yeah, so go ahead, Robbie. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. My name's Robbie, and I live down in Georgia, and I'm literally just a truck nut. So I'm someone who is really passionate about classic trucks. I've got a group of friends that are really passionate about classic trucks as well. So my whole channel is about messing around with classic trucks, whether it's recovering, discovering, wrenching on them, or profiling somebody else's truck who has what we think is a cool truck.
Yeah, and kind of as a segue into that, you do a little bit on your channel called What's in My Driveway, where you actually do kind of tell everybody a little bit about somebody else's truck. And I told you I was going to steal that. I just might do it.
That's okay, man. That's up for grabs by anyone.
Hey, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, as they say.
Yeah, and that's a segment that like you said, we do that we basically, whether it's a friend or somebody we know from the classic truck scene down in the Southeast, or it may not even be somebody we know at all, but we typically bring them over to my house and we just do a full profile on the truck and talk about what they've done to the truck and what makes it unique and what makes it different from other trucks on the road today. So I think that segment is a lot of fun, and a lot of the guys, John and TTR and Rocky, they always say, man, we really envy you because you get to, ride in all these different trucks, see all these different trucks. And sometimes I have to pinch myself and go, yeah, I guess I am, getting to do that. So it's a pretty cool segment. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, and before we get going too much further, Robbie, we are going to talk a little bit about some of the people who are in the chat with us tonight. And the first person in was in very early. That was Dick Skinner's shop and Snap-on Tools, Working to Relax, Eford Garage, as well as Art. I call it Arch Cricket because I pronounce it the Canadian way. Chris Davis, as well as Robbie from One Man Shop, and Rust Belt Mechanic is here. Trucker Dave is in the house, as well as the Miniac.
So, Robbie, you just got done talking about kind of the principle behind your channel and all of the, the name's pretty self-explanatory, United by Trucks, but we do know
Sure.
that you do focus maybe a little more on the, of course, Jason can relate to the square body Chevys quite a bit. I know you do have a big build going on right now that you're trying to prep for, I believe, LST. So tell us a little bit about what that build is and what makes that one unique.
Yeah, so the whole mission behind the channel, before I touch on this build, is to really highlight classic trucks in general. So we try not to be brand specific. However, I grew up around C10s. I've been very involved in C10s and Chevys and GMs for a long time. So obviously you see a slant toward the GM and in particular the square body, since those have become so popular on our channel. But currently we are working on what I will call a 1986 two-wheel drive K5. I'm looking at it right now, but it's a square body two-wheel drive Blazer. And we're actually just taking the body from the 86 and placing it on a factory 1980 two-wheel drive chassis that has been airbagged, four-linked. It's got tubular, or not tubular, but it's got aftermarket control arms up front to help it lay the front cross member. A whole host of things are going on with it right now, but it's got an LS swap, Boyd tank. Man, just, I don't know. What do you want to know about it? There's so many things that I guess I could say about it, but it's meant to be, we're building it to be daily driven. We're going to road trip it. We're going to, pile our friends in and head to Texas 12 hours, hopefully on February 20th. And I am scared to even show you what it looks like right now because we're nowhere close.
Well, if the listeners or the viewers, whatever we want to say, those in the live chat want to have an idea about that, of course, the best way to do it is probably to follow you on Instagram. I have a pretty good idea of maybe where that's at because of that. UBTK5, I believe, is what you're calling that project. And yeah, so Robbie, why don't you? I know Jason's got another question here coming up, but why don't you just give us your Instagram handle so all those in the chat can follow you?
Yeah, so it's United by Trucks across all platforms, but on Instagram specifically, it's at United with the space by space trucks. So you got that little, I don't even know what you call that, but I'll call it a little space down there on the bottom between United
underscore or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a hyphen, but it's like a hyphen.
So Robbie, let's get into a little bit about what or why UBT or United by Trucks exists. I know that you were a very, very small channel. You grew rapidly, and it's things were what most YouTube channels dream of in forms of growth and exposure. So tell me what led you to the channel, and the follow-up to that is, what do you attribute your success of the channel to?
Yeah, so I think I'm probably going to irritate a lot of the folks who are watching this right now by saying that I actually didn't watch a whole lot of YouTube, like just really get in and subscribe to a bunch of channels and watch a lot of channels before I started this channel a little over, I guess it's been a little over a year ago now. I've always messed around with classic trucks, but I was actually looking for a new truck and was just doing a little research to see what the reviews were on the newer GM crew cab truck. So just looking in the market for a daily driver Silverado that I could pull a trailer with. So I found myself on a couple of different channels on YouTube, and it got me to thinking. John Wargo is one of the main channels I attribute, me wanting to get on YouTube and highlight what we do. But I basically just started watching some of these videos and thinking, you know what, maybe somebody would like to see what we're doing with classic trucks. We're, what I think a bunch of good guys who just like to get together and have fun and mess around with these trucks. So I just thought maybe this is the right time to turn the camera around and show what we're up to. And the second part of that question was about success. Is that right?
Yeah. So what do you attribute the success of the channel? Yeah.
So I would attribute it to a number of things. A lot of it has been, and I'm one of those people that likes to research topics a lot. So I basically before I even posted my first couple of videos, I got to thinking, well, how can I be successful? So I began following channels like Think Media, video influencers who are what I would consider YouTube consultants or YouTube specialists. I mean, they really help you learn how to grow your channel. I mean, obviously you got to have good content. Obviously you got to niche down. You've really got to focus on something very specific that you can bring that community of folks who are interested in too. But there are also other ways that you can optimize your channel, whether it's by using tags or making sure that you have consistency with your title, your descriptions, and your tags as well. So I think coupling the content with just being methodical and strategic about how you're putting the content out there, and also the consistency. I mean, if you're not going to be consistent, people are not going to want to return and watch the videos that you're posting every week or every month, whatever that pace is for you. For us, it was once a week, and then I kind of doubled it up there for a little while, and we actually saw some explosive growth when I was doubling those videos up per week. So I think a combination of all those things are probably what led to some of the very quick growth that we've had over the last year.
And not to mention the fact that you're focusing in on, like you said, you're niching down on a very specific style of truck that seems to appeal to just about everybody. That
I'm sorry.
that my wife, my son, my father can all thank you, and including me, for your influence on me for getting another truck, because it really has done something as far as bringing my family together to the point where my dad, who is like my best friend, is really interested in what I'm doing to the truck. It's certainly not what he would do, but he's interested in it.
Yeah.
So thank you for
I
that.
get that. Yeah, I'm sure your wife's really loving that. But I get I probably get at least a message a day where somebody is saying, what you guys are doing on the channel has ignited my passion for classic trucks, or for my granddad's truck that's been sitting out back, or makes me want to sell my classic car and buy a classic truck. And I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't necessarily condone that, because I love classic muscle cars too, but it's there's something about trucks that has a mass appeal, and I think that's what we're seeing day in and day out across YouTube, not just on my channel, not just on your channel, Jason, but there's just there's a big desire for truck content, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook.
Well, and I know you always reference the truck farm as it is down there, and so of course you might see me in the comments more often when there's the blue oval involved. But when you say classic trucks, what do you think what's your threshold for content? I mean, what year cutoff is that for you when you say classic trucks? It's ambiguous enough that you can kind of probably change that as the years go on. But what is that right now?
Yeah, and I think that this conversation is happening right now with the folks who are plugged in the classic truck world. So before this or maybe before, sorry, Rocky's in the background. He's over here making noise. But probably before about 2 or 3 months ago, I would have said that the cutoff is typically around that 1987 mark for square body GM trucks. And we would obviously extend that up to 91 for Suburbans and all that. But I think what we're seeing right now is a very big, and I'm talking GM trucks specifically, because that's really sort of at least the bread and butter from my knowledge perspective. But I think what we're seeing right now is that the OBS trucks, which would be the 88 to 98 Chevy or GM trucks, are really, really taking off, and honestly becoming considered a classic, or something that I would certainly highlight on my channel and not feel bad about calling that a classic truck, or calling that something that's, it's just an older truck that obviously has great lines and can be modified just like any other classic truck that we're messing with.
Well, 88, of course, that's 32 years old now. So, I mean, most states, at least in Kansas here, 40 years old is the cutoff for the antique tag. So, and now that we're in a new decade, 2020, like, people need to start thinking, oh my gosh, I just lost power.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought my screen went blank. I was like, did I lose power? But,
no, you're good. Keep going.
So anyway, but we're in a new decade. So all of those, a 1970 Chevelle is now a 50-year-old car. When I first started getting into cars as like a 7th grade kid, 97-ish, like a 50-year-old car in 97 was a 47 something. So, I mean, it's just the times are changing. And Ford's cutoffs aren't really all that different, like 91 for the square body, and then 96 there for the, that's my first vehicle is a 95 F-150. So I have a soft spot in my heart for the 92 to 96 body style Ford. But anyway,
my first truck was actually a 96 S10, not a C10, but I'm even just having like this whole reinvigoration around square body S10s, which, there's all controversy about calling it, a first gen S10 a square body. But, Mike, my business partner here at the shop, and someone who's a big time fabricator and helped us on the K5 chassis, he is big into S10s, and he's got a lot of really, really cool S10s. And so I'm kind of thinking, we might have to get an S10 for the channel before too much longer, just because it brings back a lot of memories like you were talking about, Grant.
I know Terry Eford in the chat's probably happy to hear that. But speaking of those in the chat, some more people have dropped in. Harrison's Rod and Custom, Eric Stenberg, This Guy's Garage, and Antonio Claudio Michael, Two Trucks Ron.
TTR is in the house.
TTR in the house.
So welcome all the newcomers, and if you guys haven't enjoyed yourself, and let's grow this. This stream's gonna go on for another, say, 20 minutes. So go ahead and share out the link to the live stream and give us the thumbs up. It really helps out the host channel. So if you could do that. But Jason, I know you're kind of wanting to move along in the old agenda, so I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, so we did want to allot a little bit of time, just because we are a small show as far as our time goes. But I wanted to allot a few questions from the chat. But before we get to that, I just wanted to make a quick statement. And Robbie, I'm sure you can agree with me, is that years ago, certain genres of vehicles, whether it be cars, trucks, vans, whatever, used to fit in a certain generational gap. So, like my father, when he was 25 years old, belonged to a van club. Owned a 75 Chevy van. That he can, and stuff like that. So, but today those generational followings seem to disappear. The lines blur. You got kids like you had that one 15-year-old young fella with the, what was it, an 86 or something like that?
It was an 84 GMC square body truck. Yeah. And then a 17-year-old with a Dodge four-wheel drive Dodge truck.
Yeah. So you're getting kids that are my son's age now. I'm aging myself, that are kind of getting into that style truck that I grew up on, and now they're seeing it as, well, it's more of a classic to them, because obviously it's that much older for them than it is for us. But it just seems to be something that those generational lines seem to be disappearing. So I just kind of wanted to make that little bit of a statement. And if we go way up in the chat, I know Rust Belt Mechanic is in the house, and I'm not sure if you know who that is. But he had a quick question for you, Robbie, to ask you, what was your favorite build to date that you've recorded?
Oh, that I've recorded. So that is, and I think you probably know this. I'm kind of funny about the word build, because I don't proclaim to be some builder, or, I'm not Chip Foose. I'm not anything like that. But, and we, because
we've seen your work, Robbie, and it's
well, I'm no Chip Foose, I can promise you that, and I'm sure I'm no Rust Belt Mechanic either.
But you ask Two Trucks Ron, he'll tell you you're one hell of a cameraman.
That's right. That's right. Gosh, there's a whole story behind why that statement's in there. But I think that probably one of the, I will say that one of my favorites that we have done on the channel, because I have the 68 GMC that's a heavy patina truck that was actually not built on the channel. We've done some work to it, but I have to say, just straight up LS truck, Pecos, the 80, I believe it's an 84, 85 GMC. I think it's an 84 GMC. It's got the Indian bronze with the buckskin secondary color. Is probably one of my favorites to date, just because we took a running and driving truck, drove it right in his carport, and when it pulled out about 2 weeks later, after about 4 or 5 full days of work, it was LS swapped with a Texas Speed cam and ready to, put all the power down to the ground and roll, and has been ever since. So that's something that we have just had a blast doing. And I don't want to really get ourselves defined as the guys that just do LS swaps all the time, but there's something to be said about hitting the key the first time on an LS swapped truck and being able to just drive it like normal. And a secondary note on that is, on my truck, Teddy, the 68 GMC, that truck has actually never even been street tuned. It's still running the PSI tuned harness, or excuse me, PSI tuned computer and their PSI harness. And literally we just plugged it in. They had only, cleared out the vat so it could be cranked up. And I've been driving that thing thousands of miles ever since. So there's something really cool about being able to do that and drive them. And I think Pecos is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do on the show, Robbie, is we like to talk about channel struggles and or growth hacks. And coming from the success of your channel, you've already kind of given us a little bit of the success story of, who you attribute, Think Media and some of those kind of builders of small channels. Can you give us any? And before we go any further, also the people who are in the chat, a lot of them have their own channels as well. So
sure.
Can you kind of share with us one thing? What's the main thing that you would recommend to help grow your channel?
So I think that one thing that is probably not as popular of an idea, or maybe it's not popular, is not the right word, but it just hasn't permeated, because I haven't seen this topic talked about very much. But one thing that I do is I make sure that I'm tagging other channels that I want people that I know that people are searching for, and I want them to find me also. So I am down every time I upload a video. I have a standard set of channels that go down, channel names that go down in that tag section below the description. When after you type your description out, I have a standard set of channels that I also tag every single video, because I want to be found if someone is tagging, someone is searching for those other channels. So it could be Finnegan's Garage, it could be Alex Rebuilds, you name a channel, Old Car Auto Guy, Straight Six Fan. I mean, it could be any of those that you feel like you have a channel that is akin to them in some way, or you occupy the same space. And I ran across that. I can't even remember where it was. It was probably Think Media somewhere. But I think that's one of those pieces of information where once I started doing that and doing it consistently, I started to see even more growth. Now, granted, there's probably a whole other set of reasons that growth could be, attributed to, but I do think that's a major focus. And I have a plugin on my Google Chrome. So every time I watch a video, it tells me a lot of statistics about the video I'm watching, like how they tagged it, other statistics. I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but I can look and I can see that a lot of the successful channels are taking and tagging other channels consistently that they feel like they occupy the same space. So I would say that make sure when you're uploading your videos, yes, you want to put the title, the full-blown title of your video down in that tag box as a tag, and you want to make sure that almost word for word in your description is the title somewhere, because YouTube is recognizing, hey, this title, this description, and the tag all has similar terminology, and it's all consistent, and the algorithm is going to recognize that and see it as valid and credible. So I think that making sure you're tagging other channels, but also tagging your title down in the tag box is something I would attribute some growth to our channel.
Well, and I was going to say, I always say that YouTube's always looking for patterns. So the more times you can repeat something, it's going to find that commonality or that relationship. So, well, I've never actually believed in that, Robbie. The way you explained it was really good. The tagging other channels. No, but that makes you articulated it well. I'm just curious too, because I do follow a lot of Think Media stuff. Have you done their video ranking academy, or because I kind of wanted to pick you? Okay. I haven't either.
Yeah, I haven't done any of I've looked into some of it, and early on I actually thought about, trying to have Sean, to do a 1-hour session with Sean. That turned out to be pretty expensive, so I did not do it at the time. However, all of his stuff is out there. I mean, we're talking about Sean Cannell of Media, and he has just got some really, really, really good advice for folks who are trying to grow their channels. I mean, he is one of the ones that I would say that is not just in it for the money, not just in it for the videos. I think he truly cares about how people are.
Even though he does make 6 figures, but
he does. He's killing it. There's no denying he's killing it. But just because you're killing it doesn't mean you aren't doing it. You aren't in it for the right reason.
Yeah. I mean, his outlook on mission and passion too is just like, I mean, it seems genuine from what I can tell. I did go to a one-day conference of his back in September. But yeah, ranking in search is such a big deal, and it's just an art and something that I struggle with for sure. And Jason always is bouncing thumbnail ideas off of me, and because the thumbnail's got to catch people too. But YouTube can't, in terms of words, the way YouTube finds patterns and things, it's not going to pick up any words you put in a thumbnail. No. But you want to help. It's like a 3-part thing, between your title, your description, and the thumbnail. Like, most people are making those decisions based on those 3 things before they watch a movie or a video of yours. So
you should. And I think that you should be thinking about that as a creator, as someone who is putting this content out. If you're not thinking about that, your subscribers or the people those potential subscribers are certainly not going to be thinking about it. They're not going to watch your content. So that consistency that, I don't know. It sounds like you know a little bit more probably about the ranking than I do. I think probably the barn find video is one of the only ones that I've had that, has really caught some of that ranking. Like if you go type in barn find or whatever, you'll probably find our barn find video. But it is it's something I don't know quite as much about, but definitely that consistency across, title, description, tag, and then obviously having a thumbnail that is appealing and specifically geared to what you think your subscriber or potential subscriber base is gonna want to see.
Well, we did have some more questions coming from the chat, but one other thing I wanted to ask you, Robbie, before we get off the topic of the creator side of things real fast was, I do really admire your shooting style. You obviously know your way around a camera a little bit. That's something that I always tell myself I need to get, or at least have a really nice lens. I will say.
I just figured this out. I think I might have just gotten to a point where I might have.
But I'm just curious, what do you shoot with? What camera gear do you shoot with?
Yeah, so I think before I tell you that, I've got to say that so it was November 28th, 2018. I picked up this iPhone that I'm literally, recording this on right now, and took some old video footage from us building Teddy, and in iMovie on my phone, compiled the first 3 videos and threw them up on YouTube. So I started right here with, I think it's like an iPhone 7. It's not even anything super fancy at all. And then I bought a GoPro, and I just bought a GoPro Hero 5 Black, started recording on it, and absolutely loved it. Then I bought another GoPro because I thought, hey, there might be some other angles that I want to catch as a part of this. Then my wife reminded me that her boss had given her a really nice point and shoot camera. So that point and shoot camera is like a Leica. It's a really nice point and shoot, but that's what I recorded a lot of my content with up until probably, about 4 or 5 months ago. And because the channel was doing well, because I'm really invested in United by Trucks, I thought I'm going to go spend a decent amount of money, whatever that threshold is for the folks who are watching this. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want what I've done to be compared to what others might be able to do. But I was in a good situation where I can invest a nice amount of money in a camera and a lens. So I bought a Nikon Z6 because I wanted the 4K capability and 24 frames a second, because I really admire and like cinematic looking footage, regardless of what it's on. I just really like that 24 frames a second. So bought a Nikon Z6 and the 35 millimeter f1.8 lens. So they're Nikkor S lens. So that's how you get that 1.8 is how you get the really blurry background, the bokeh as they call it. So
yeah, I like that.
Can sometimes be an issue, but for the most part, it comes off pretty appealing, I think. But yeah, that's the camera setup and the life cycle I've had as it relates to cameras over the life of the channel.
Well, Jason, I've tracked two questions I keeping track of, but I didn't know if you saw those. I was going to let you.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
All right, so CJ Leon had asked, when is the K5 4-wheel drive going to be a build on your show?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly. So really, I think Jason probably knows this because we've talked about it a lot, but we spent a lot of 2019 building our arsenal of trucks. So we already had a few trucks, but we really wanted to ramp it up so that we had some pretty consistent content and content that folks who watch the channel could really get behind and have a history with. So we're trying to do a better job of getting these builds or getting, the projects we're working on, getting them up and going pretty quickly. But that did not happen in 2019. So we've spent a lot of time in 2019, like I said, growing that arsenal of trucks. The K5 that I believe he is talking about is an 81 original paint. It's a pretty rough K5. It's not, it's not anything too special. However, I think it would be fun to do some off-roading in it or do some trail riding in it. It's all factory, except it's got a 2-inch lift with some 33s, but it needs a motor. So funny story, we're actually taking the motor that we pulled out of TTR's truck. I think it's a 305. He had a 305 700R4 set up in that truck. We're actually going to take that 305 and put it in that 4-wheel drive K5 Blazer and probably just go tear some trails up or something. Just keep it super low budget and just have some fun with it. So I would say that you'll see that. I'll say that to answer the question directly, I'll say that you'll see that in 2020. However, I do not know if it will be in the first half of 2020.
Well, the second question I saw comes from Herman Lomas, who asked, Robbie, when you going to drop the shop truck you just recently got?
Well, we have put so much time and energy into getting this K5 to a point where we think we can drive it 12 hours to Texas in 5 weeks. I will say that Philpott is the name of that truck he's talking about. It's a 76 short bed, all buckskin GM truck. So square body, really base model truck. It's got a straight 6 with a 3 on the tree. And we're probably going to slam it, put some Steelies on it, and leave the drivetrain that's in it and just drive it around as a shop truck. So I would say that you will definitely see that in the first half of the year, because that truck is in my carport right now and I have to look at it every day, and I really want to do something with it. So as soon as we get this K5 going, or as soon as we get the K5, the two-wheel drive K5 that we're building, as soon as we get it ready and back from LST, that truck is going to come to the shop, and we're gonna start thrashing on it a little bit.
So we got one more question for you, Robbie, from the chat, and then we're gonna get ready to kind of close things out a little bit.
Okay.
But Novotaz asks, does your day jobs get in the way of your filming? So I want to add to that, first of all, what is your day job?
Yeah, I'm not going to name the company just because I don't think there's any need to do that. But I'm in data and technology sales for a data company. So basically, I work for a company that sells data to state governments to make sure that their benefits eligibility process has reduced fraud and that sort of thing. So without going into too many details, data and technology sales is my day job. The benefit side of that is I get to work from home. So that allows me a lot of flexibility. As long as I'm, achieving what I need to achieve at work, I have a lot of flexibility in how my day looks. What that allows me to do is maybe spend a little bit more time on some of the truck stuff. Whereas if I were in a 9-to-5 job, sitting in a corporate office or sitting in a cubicle somewhere, that wouldn't afford me to do. So I have a little bit of flexibility in my day, and that's how I'm able to achieve some of this stuff.
And that's great, because I think a lot of us, including Novotaz, I'm sure that's why he asked, is because a lot of us, our jobs get in the way of either A, our projects, or B, of our actual filming of these projects.
Yeah.
And we all know that the filming of the project gets in the way of the actual work we do to them sometimes.
Absolutely.
So as we kind of move forward with our agenda, Robbie, we generally will wrap up our shows by giving channel updates. So Grant, why don't you go ahead and give your channel update for yours, and then we'll move on to mine, and we'll get Robbie to give one for his.
Well, whether you knew it or not, that was a perfect segue, because work is currently getting in the way of content production for me.
That's always will.
Yeah. So I think it was Tuesday night was a 14-hour workday. So I had actually shot what I thought was a really short video. It was going to be easy to edit on Monday night, and it comes out tomorrow. I missed my normal Wednesday upload day, so it'll be coming out tomorrow. And of course, with weather's also kind of, snowstorms and the whatnot have been battling a little bit, getting things done. So I'm not quite sure what I might be doing this weekend. It might just be finally figuring out how to whip the TIG welder out and do those giveaways finally. Once and for all, just cross that off the list. But Jason, how about yourself?
Well, last week, I think I shared with you guys a little something special that I was working on in the form of a parody upload. So there's a very famous channel out there that everybody knows who it is. I'm not going to tell you who, but I'm making fun of that channel, and it's going to be a good one. I had an awful hard time putting it to script, because you really got to script this stuff. I have a hard time doing without it, and keeping a straight face. So there's going to be the parody, and make sure you stay tuned to the very end, because there's lots of outtakes. Anyways, Robbie, tell us a little bit of something that we may not know that's coming up on UBT.
Yeah, so I will say that we have a very aggressive timeline to get this two-wheel drive K5 Blazer to running and driving and ready to go 12 hours to Texas. I'll show you a little peek, not a sneak peek, because there's really not much that's changed. If I can actually get it in the camera, not much that's changed since the last video. Rocky and I are here right now. We're actually pulling some of the old wiring off and getting ready to rewire the motor. and just generally get it cleaned up. But I've got a whole truck bed full of parts here, and we've got other parts over here on the side. So we've been at Auto Metal Direct today, picking up some bumpers, and we've got new brake lines. We've got all sorts of new stuff that's going on the K5. So we just literally got the keys to this new shop yesterday, and it's actually nowhere near the way we want it. So we're also trying to get this place straightened up a little bit too in the midst of all this. But I would say the thing that you may not know about the K5, the two-wheel drive K5 Blazer, that's going to happen here soon is that we're hoping, I mean, absolutely hoping, if everything works out, every part shows up like it should, we're going to be setting the body not this weekend, but the next weekend. So you will hopefully by the end of next weekend at least see some semblance of a two-wheel drive, or a square body Blazer. So I think that's something I'm really, really looking forward to, and I see that as a huge milestone accomplished if we can finish the brake lines, finish the fuel lines, and get the body set down on the frame.
Well, that's great, Robbie. This has been an actual very enjoyable video. It's been fun. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you part of the show. You brought some of your buddies with Brian Harrison was in the chat, as well as TTR, and it was great to have those guys come on over here and be a part of the channel. And I'm really pleased to have the turnout that we did. Thanks for all the great information. As you know, I am working on getting down to Marietta in August sometime. So you and I kind of got to get together on a timeline. And if everything works out well for me, I hope to drive Dale down on that trip. So that's going to be an awesome road trip. So this is where I turn it over to Grant to close out the show. So thank you so much, Robbie, for being a part of the CarrGuy Sixfan Show.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Robbie. From my side, or from the co-host chair, it was enjoyable as well. Jason pretty much summed up my thoughts as well. And I did want to say one more thing to everybody in the chat. Sorry we didn't get to all of your questions. At least I know Herman Loma's asked 2 of Jason and I, and so I'm going to try to, with 2 parting thoughts. Maybe you can read between the lines of my comments and think of how maybe we would have answered those questions. And so I'll start with Robbie, when you talked about your all buckskin Philpott, I believe, and you said you're keeping the straight 6 in it. Of course, you made my heart. I
know
you warmed my heart. But if you do any motor swap, I'd love to see a 4200 Blazer inline 6 resto mod it that way. I think could be really cool. Kind of like yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I know you're kind of doing your outro.
That's all right.
I will say that somebody mentioned that to me the other day, and I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but my mom actually had a Trailblazer with a 4.2 inline in it, and that thing would flat out fly. So when that fella mentioned it to me, I'm kind of like, that'd be a really cool motor swap and something. Even going from an old school straight 6 to the newer modern 4.2 straight 6. So yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, and I'm probably going to fire up my Motor Trend on Demand subscription here in another month or so and binge watch and get caught up on. I know Hot Rod Garage did a Build a Better Barra is what they're calling it, and they're turbocharging a 4200. So I can't wait to see that someday. But so hopefully maybe that gives you a little insight into. I know Herman was asking Jason about LS swapping his truck, so you can read between the lines there. I don't know. We're not going to answer that question directly, but. Think about what I just answered there, and then finally, if LS Fest is in Texas, Robbie, if you ever did a collaboration, if I got to pick your collaboration for you, I don't know if you follow Fat Fender Garage out in Arizona, but you're almost halfway there in Texas. But if you ever did a call out grudge match kind of Ford versus Chevy classic truck, Coyote swap versus LS swap, I think that'd be some content that a ton of people would definitely be in for. So
yeah, I think you're right.
So there you go. With that, guys, again, everybody, thanks Robbie for bringing some new names into the chat. Welcome all the new faces. If we didn't already say welcome before, that's going to wrap up this week's episode for the CarrGuy and Sixfan Show. Again, if this was your first time, we do swap channels who hosts, so next week it will be on my channel. But that's going to do it for this episode. And until next time, peace out.